What's going on, guys? We train Joku, and today was a beautiful day. Friday, May 30th, and we had our second annual, what people would call college and career day. But for us, at MS224, exploration and discovery, we have to be complicated, we have to be difficult. So what we did is really second annual, because we tried it last year and it went pretty well, but this year we upped the ante. So what I asked my team to do was really think about how do we create a space around college and career that also honors the next step in the lives of our students, which is high school. So today we had where most people might have a college, a kind of pseudo college fair. What we did, we had a number of amazing high schools come, and we had a little high school fair for our 7th graders who next year will be applying to high school. That's one thing that's unique about New York City. Kids actually get to apply to middle school and apply to high school. They pick their top choices, and hopefully they're accepted into those schools. Versus where I grew up in California, where you went to your zone school. I went to Latte Middle School, and my zone school, based on where I lived, was Inglewood High School, and that's where I ended up going. But here, you're open to schools across the city. As long as you can get there, that's your business. How you get them. And plus, in New York City, you get the Metro cards so you can get the bus and train to get to school. But again, knowing that, my thought process has always been this: why are we should talk about college, but why are we skipping high school entirely? Why are we creating spaces for kids to truly understand and hear from high school students and get a perspective of what the trajectory looks like from high school to college, grad school, and beyond? And then also those other pathways that might not necessarily be the typical, I'm going to go to college, then I'm going to get a great job, versus some people who, have a talent, a passion, a skill that allows them to step into professions that actually in most cases, pay well above what you're going to get out of undergrad, and actually push on a pathway to entrepreneurship. So today we had our high schools there. We had people representing colleges as far as them being professionals. Engineers from Morgan State, graduate students who were there to talk to the kids. Our Real Talk XYZ podcast actually had a live podcast where the whole entire thing was live streamed. So they were sitting on stage in front of the whole entire audience, the school community, interviewing a recent high school graduate from our middle school. I'm sorry, not a high school graduate, a recent middle school graduate who graduated from our middle school, who is now in high school, a undergraduate student from Delaware State University, and then a graduate student as well, and all women of color. So our kids got to hear from people that look like them and sound like them, right? But then we also had, we were planning for something much bigger, but listen, it was so awesome. We had sisters from Zeta Phi Beta, who were there and presented themselves, and they did a impromptu step show for the kids. Then we had brothers from the mighty LUL, Lambda Upsilon Lambda, who were there as well, did their thing. And I was proud because even with brothers from LUL, it's not so often that Black and brown kids tend to see men, Latino men, in that space. Growing up, I had no clue there were any Latino fraternities or sororities, coming up in California. I was kind of familiar with the AKAs, the Alphas, the Qs, the Kappas, the Deltas, because a lot of my teachers were from those fraternities and sororities. But here to see brothers on stage, mixing Spanish and English, talking about their heritage was dope. And my kids sat there and they were like, mouth wide open. To the point where kids started going on Google, looking it up. And now they're like, oh, I want to be a LUL. Oh, no, I want to be a Q. Oh, no, I want to be a Kappa. And it was funny because I was like, wow. It's funny the things that the kids are not familiar with, when you expose them to, all of a sudden their minds expand. And it's happening in a good space because this is all linked into the possibilities of their future, So today was a great day. But now let me tell you about people who came in to talk to them. We had journalists. We had barbers. We had the owner of an entrepreneur who owns a barber shop in Westchester County, who brought students to the school, and they actually gave kids haircuts, little fades, little trims, and they also had young ladies who were there who were um, I don't know the word; it's slipping my mind right now, but they were studying, doing manicures, so they did the girls' nails and also demonstrated to them the process that they go through, the chemicals and whatever is used. All these spaces where the kids were just like, wow, the things that we don't even think about every single day, that people are making livable incomes off of, and some people have turned into businesses. And I'm sitting there watching all these things happen around me, and I'm asking myself, like, just being a futurist, right? What would this look like 10 years from now? Because I came across this article that said by 2030, 85% of the jobs that would exist then do not exist now. And I'm not thinking, oh, robots will all of a sudden be giving you haircuts. But I'm telling you right now, I'd rather have a human being giving my haircut than a robot. I don't care how precise they can be. I like the artistry of a human being who is able to show their skills and their abilities, right? I'm not saying that you're going to go to a nail shop and put your nail under a machine. All of a sudden, 5 seconds later, you pull it out, your nails are done. But I think some people still like that human contact conversation. But I do believe things are going to be happening in a very different kind of way. A lot of things that we see today are not going to be the way we thought they were. I'm sorry, that we thought they were going to be. And that is something that I think a lot of us are still battling with. Knowing that the world is changing drastically. Technology is making things moving at the speed of light. But we also are living in a space where we don't want to lose touch or lose control of what we have because it's comfortable. The career, when we talk to our kids about careers and jobs out there, we give them assessments and these skill testers and whatever the case may be. It's still happening from a 21st century mindset. We've been talking about the 21st century all throughout the 20th century, but we saw where hardware was taking us. We saw where the printing press and the steam engines and all these other things, tractors that just changed the way we worked. That allowed us to now expand the way we see the world and allowed us to create things that we never thought, 200 years ago were possible. But the problem now is that we know without a doubt a change is coming, and that change is happening very quickly. And every day there's something new, and the thing that's tripping us up the most is the fact that this thing that's coming that's new has to do with thought, how we think, how fast we can react, and what are we doing to make sure that we're not getting left behind. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be like an AI expert, because I am not an AI expert, and I probably will never be. I know it's weird, right? People are, oh my God, you talk about AI all the time. But the thing is, I talk about it because it's like knowing that this thing is very, very important. And if I'm not in that space, if I'm not engaged in it, I don't understand it, and I don't have the comfortability around it, then I'm going to ignore it. And before I know it, it's going to become something that I am completely shut out of, because my understanding of it is so low that everyone else who has a much better understanding will now dominate me. And I'll be relegated to just being a user, a consumer, and not a creator. And that's what I don't want for our kids. So even today, as we were having the fair and everything was happening, the one thing that I knew for a fact is that my brain was asking myself, what is this going to look like in 5 years when it's 2030? The journalist, what is the journalist going to look like in 2030? What is the engineer going to look like in 2030? What is the barber going to look like? How would the work look like? How would they do their work? Is technology going to be hardware wise in that space, or is there something going to happen software wise? their ability to think, that's going to impact the work is done. I know a lot of things I'm saying is just esoteric and kind of I don't know, somewhere up in the atmosphere, but these are questions we need to ask. And as a school leader, someone who has parents who are looking at me saying, I want my child to be educated so they can go into the world and do better than I did. I have to make sure that everything that we're doing, every opportunity that's out there, is unpacked and understood. If I don't understand what that thing is, I have to find someone who understands it, who can help me understand it and teach me, so I can then be able to articulate what needs to be done in my space to make sure that my kids are exposed to that thing, that my teachers are exposed to that thing, so that they don't leave middle school, go to high school, or leave high school, go to college, or leave high school and go into the real world and find out that they've been shut out because other communities, other children who've been exposed to that thing in a deep, meaningful way are now the ones who are controlling it, because they are not just consumers, they're creators. And I think that is the mission here. How do we learn this tool enough to be able to manage it and also have it be useful to our community so that our children are not left behind, if that makes any sense. All right, y'all. I'm heading to an event right now from which I'm going to be talking about AI, and hopefully I don't embarrass myself. So often I'm always like, this is a passion of mine, but it's ever changing so quickly that sometimes I feel like, what I'm saying might not be relevant, tomorrow, because of how fast it's changing. So all right, y'all. Uche and Joku, thank you so much for your time, and I'll talk to you later. You all.